Chapter 1. The private lounge fell into a stunned, eerie silence the moment Ethan walked in, his arm wrapped confidently around Mia. Every eye in the room darted toward Chloe. Everyone in their circle knew the story. Chloe and Ethan had been together for 5 years. He had once risked his life for her. They were untouchable, inseparable. But now, Ethan was in love with someone else. He settled Mia into the plush sofa, pulling her into his lap as if nothing was out of the ordinary. "Chloe," he began, his voice casual, "let's break up. It's gotten stale. Everyone, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Mia." Ethan's love was a fiery, all-consuming thing. He couldn't bear for the person he cherished to suffer the slightest grievance. To love someone was to declare it to the world. It used to be Chloe. Now it was Mia. Ethan looked at Chloe, his eyes devoid of any emotion. "If you ever need anything, you can still call me. We can still be friends after the breakup." With a few concise words, he effortlessly drew a line between them. Just as he had kept his distance from all other women when he was with Chloe, he now relegated Chloe herself to that same remote territory. After a moment of silence, he added another layer of protection for his new love. "Mia is sensitive. If you're upset, take it out on me. She's a good girl, and I want to make this official." His gaze held a clear, sharp warning. Chloe forced a smile, though it felt brittle. "Don't worry, I won't cause her any trouble. If it's over, let's make it a clean break." Ethan didn't quite believe her, but he said, "It's for the best if you can think that way." Mia, nestled in Ethan's arms, whispered, "Ethan, I need to use the restroom." Ethan pressed a tender, cherished kiss to her hair. A dense, sharp pain bloomed in Chloe's chest. As the door to the restroom clicked shut, someone in the room finally spoke up. "Ethan, are you serious? Man, this is too much." "You and Chloe?" Ethan's voice cut them off, cold and severe. "I'm only going to say this once. My girlfriend is Mia. The one I love is Mia. Chloe and I are in the past. If any of you give Mia a hard time, you're giving me a hard time." A collective shock silenced the room. They realized this was real. Ethan, who had never once lost his temper with them, was now threatening to cut ties over Mia. Sympathetic, pitying glances fell on Chloe. Hidden beneath her sleeves, Chloe's hands trembled uncontrollably. 5 years ago, after they got together, she had never imagined a day would come when they would look at each other with such cold indifference. The boy's earnest, passionate vows still seemed to echo in her ears. "Chloe, I swear I'll marry you. I'll never let you suffer." Her nails dug into her palms, but she felt no pain, only a numbness as she downed the shot of tequila on the table. For the past year, they had been fighting constantly, breaking up and getting back together too many times to count. Ethan had cycled through other women, but Chloe had never cared. Because Ethan always came back to her. But this time, Mia's appearance sent a chill through her heart. Ethan's executive assistant had always been a man. A month ago, he was replaced by Mia. She was completely incompetent, constantly making mistakes. Yet Ethan, in a rare display of patience, was incredibly forgiving. It all came to a head when Mia sent a text to Chloe's phone by mistake. "Mr. Kane, this one or this one." Attached were 2 photos of Mia in revealing, sexy outfits. Chloe had confronted Ethan, and they'd had a massive fight. He'd pinched the bridge of his nose, his voice thick with unconcealed impatience. "She's my assistant. Her appearance reflects on the company, on me. What's the big deal if she asks for my opinion on her outfit? What are 2 pictures supposed to mean? Chloe, are you blowing this out of proportion? When did you become like this?" With tears in her eyes, Chloe had asked hysterically, "So the silk stocking she left in your passenger seat was also an accident? And when the power went out at her apartment in the middle of the night and she called you to come over, was I overreacting then too?" Ethan had watched her furious outburst in silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was chillingly calm. "Maybe we should break up, this time for good. She's not like you, Chloe. She's kind and gentle, not full of schemes and drama." Every word was a knife, slowly carving up Chloe's heart. Mia's blatant ambition, her step-by-step encroachment, it had all been sanctioned by Ethan. The memory of that night, the hysteria, the tears, the complete loss of control was ugly. So ugly it horrified even Chloe herself. She couldn't bear to think about it. That version of her was repulsive. So this time, Chloe was truly tired. She decided to let go. Chapter 2. Back at the penthouse, Chloe immediately called Professor Miller. "Professor, how have you been? That position at the studio you mentioned, is it still open?" Leaning against the window, Chloe watched the stream of headlights below, her tightly clenched fist betraying her anxiety. She expected him to turn her down flat. Instead, a gruff hum came from the other end of the line. "Well, look who it is. All my pleading couldn't convince you back then, and now you remember to call me?" Chloe was about to apologize. But the old professor seemed to sense her predicament. All right, I'll submit your name now. In 2 weeks, I'll have someone pick you up." Chloe managed a bitter smile. "Thank you, Professor." 2 more weeks, and she would be leaving the city she had called home for 5 years. After graduation, Ethan had wanted her to support his career, so she had turned down the professor's invitation to be his partner, tending to his life for 3 years. Thankfully, Professor Miller didn't hold her youthful foolishness against her. He was still offering her a spot at his prestigious studio in Paris, a chance to finally pursue her long-abandoned dream. It took Chloe an hour to pack her belongings. Everything in the apartment that was hers was now in her suitcases. Her gaze fell on the glass jar on the nightstand. Inside were 1,100 origami cranes she had folded by hand, each one carrying a message she'd written. It was a birthday gift for Ethan the year she graduated. He had always cherished it, touching it every night before he slept. She hesitated, wondering if she should take it. It was a gift, after all. Suddenly, the front door swung open. Mia and a slightly drunk Ethan were locked in a passionate kiss. Mia's eyes flickered past Ethan's shoulder and met Chloe's. She let out a small shriek and buried herself in Ethan's arms, trembling. Ethan squinted in Chloe's direction, his expression sour, as if annoyed that she had interrupted him. "Why are you still here?" Chloe's eyes dropped, catching his flustered reaction. If she weren't here, they would already be in the bedroom. She cleared her throat, suppressing the lump that had formed there. "Just finished packing." Ethan's tone was accusatory. "You scared her." Mia's eyes were now red and swollen, tears streaming down her face. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come at this hour. Chloe, I didn't mean to take Ethan from you. Please don't look at me like that. I'm scared." Ethan pulled Mia tighter, his brow furrowed in anger. "Chloe, I told you, if you have a problem, you take it up with me. It's my fault we didn't make it, but you know life is unpredictable. It's not her fault I fell in love with her. If I find out you're bullying Mia again, I won't care about our past." Chapter 3. Chloe felt numb. Since they had walked in, she hadn't said a single word. A calm glance in Mia's direction was now considered an attack. Chloe let out a self-deprecating laugh, her voice faint. "Don't worry, you won't be seeing me again." Ethan scoffed, unimpressed. Chloe had said things like that during their previous breakups. But every time he cut ties with those other women, she would come back to him. He didn't believe for a second she would actually leave. Just as Chloe grabbed her suitcase to leave, Ethan stopped her. Chloe paused. Ethan lifted Mia, gently placing her on the sofa. He touched her cheek with concern, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "You're a little warm, just lie down for a bit." When he looked back at Chloe, his tone dropped 10 degrees. "That hangover soup you used to make for me. Make it again." Chloe found it laughable. "We have no relationship anymore. Why would you think I'd still make you anything?" Ethan smirked, his gaze drifting over her with visible disdain. "I'm not asking you to make it for me. It's for Mia. She can't hold her liquor and took a shot for me earlier. I'm not asking for a favor. $5,000 a bowl." A fire ignited in Chloe's chest, her stomach churning. She remembered questioning Ethan's decision to hire Mia. Mia didn't drink and couldn't run interference for him at business functions. Why make her his assistant? What had Ethan said then? "I'm not so pathetic that I need a woman to drink for me." But in the early days of his startup, it had always been Chloe who drank for him. Swallowing the bitter taste in her mouth, Chloe said, "Find someone else." Ethan seemed to have expected this answer. "Do you have any income? I don't want to see a woman who was with me begging on the streets. I hope your bank account has as much pride as you do." Chloe bit her lip, thought for a moment, and turned toward the kitchen. She'd spent years taking care of Ethan, only taking on small freelance gigs in her spare time. Her savings amounted to a mere $10,000. Moving to Paris would be expensive. There was no point in turning down the money. A flash of triumph crossed Mia's eyes as she cooed, "Ethan, you're being too harsh. Chloe isn't your maid." Ethan was unconcerned. "It's the only thing she's good for." Chloe's hand, stirring the pot, froze. It was as if a bucket of ice water had been dumped over her head. The only thing she's good for? The year she graduated, Ethan had promised he would always cherish her. "You'll never regret choosing me, Chloe." Back then, she had believed him. She had resolutely chosen to support him from behind the scenes, giving up her own career to cook and care for him. In the end, all she got was Ethan's dismissive, "It's the only thing she's good for." Chloe clenched her jaw, wanting only to finish the soup and leave. From the living room, Mia's breathy giggles could be heard. "Ethan, don't," Chloe's still in there. When Chloe came out with the soup, Ethan was sitting beside Mia, looking thoroughly satisfied. Chloe was about to set the bowl down when Mia suddenly reached out to take it. Chapter 4. The soup was fresh off the stove, steam rising from the bowl. Afraid of burning her, Chloe instinctively pulled the bowl back. But Mia forcefully knocked it over. Tears instantly welled in Mia's eyes as she cried out in pain. "Ah, it hurts." At the same time, Chloe gasped. The scalding soup had spilled directly onto her stomach, a searing pain burning through her clothes. Ethan's face darkened instantly. He rushed to Mia's side, frantic. "Where does it hurt?" A few drops had splashed onto the back of Mia's hand, which was rapidly turning red. A storm brewed in Ethan's eyes, his expression glacial. "Chloe, I told you, take your frustrations out on me, cut the petty games. You had to do this, didn't you?" Apologized to Mia, pain brought tears to Chloe's eyes. She looked at Ethan in disbelief. "You think I did that on purpose?" Ethan's face was a mask of disgust, his words delivered without a flicker of hesitation. "Aren't you that kind of person? You'll do anything to get what you want. If you don't apologize today, I'll make you regret it." Chloe trembled uncontrollably. "It wasn't my fault," she said, her voice shaking. "Why should I apologize? Didn't you see I was also?" Ethan didn't even bother to listen, scooping Mia into his arms and heading for the door. "You'd better pray you don't regret this." On his way out, he didn't forget to comfort Mia. "Don't be scared, I'm taking you to the hospital. You won't have a scar." Mia pouted. "What if I do? Will you leave me?" Ethan's voice softened as he patiently soothed her. "Never. How could I ever leave you? Whoever scarred you, I'll make them pay 1,000 times over." Chloe stood frozen, a bone-deep chill spreading through her. But the burn on her stomach was a fiery reminder that this was all real. Chloe checked into a hotel. With only 10 days left before she left the city, it wasn't worth the trouble of finding a new apartment. She carefully lifted her shirt, discovering the burn on her abdomen had already started to fester. When her friend Olivia saw the wound, tears immediately streamed down her face. "That bastard Ethan, how could he do this to you?" Chloe just shook her head softly. "It's over." Olivia, her college roommate, knew Chloe's stubborn and proud nature too well. Worried, she insisted on taking her to a clinic to have the wound treated. The next day, Chloe received a phone call. "Plagiarism? How is that possible? I'm the original creator. I have proof." A while back, she had taken a commission from a boutique to design a wedding gown. The contract was supposed to be signed today, but the owner called to say they had received an email with evidence of her plagiarism. Chloe felt a surge of panic. She was about to start at Professor Miller's studio and couldn't afford any mistakes. In this industry, a designer's reputation was everything, especially when it came to plagiarism. If she was tainted by this, it would bring shame upon her mentor as well. She rummaged through her luggage for half an hour, but couldn't find her original design sketches. After a moment's thought, she realized she must have left them at Ethan's penthouse. When Chloe rushed back to the penthouse, she found Ethan waiting for her in the living room. Meeting his cold, hostile gaze, her heart clenched painfully. "This was you, wasn't it?" Chapter 5. A smirk played on Ethan's lips. "I told you to apologize to Mia yesterday. You didn't. Chloe, did no one ever teach you that there are consequences for your actions?" Chloe's throat tightened. The burn on her stomach began to throb again, and a cold sweat beaded on her forehead. "My actions? She's the one who reached out and knocked the bowl over, spilling it all over me. Why am I the one in the wrong?" Ethan's eyes scanned her from head to toe. He scoffed. "Spilled it all over you." Mia was in so much pain she couldn't sleep all night. "And you're telling me it spilled on you? Chloe, do you have a brain? To tell a lie like that? If you were scalded, you would have been screaming in pain." Chloe's eyes reddened. Her lips moved, wanting to explain, but in the end, she said nothing. What was the point? No matter what she said, Ethan wouldn't believe her. There was a time when she would have cried out in pain, and Ethan would have patiently comforted her. But later, as his company took off and he was consumed by work, she learned to treat her own wounds and stopped crying out for him. He hadn't noticed that she had long since stopped acting vulnerable around him. Chloe took a deep breath. She had to get her original sketches back. Otherwise, the stain of plagiarism would follow her forever, destroying her career. What will it take for you to give them to me? Ethan's gaze shifted away, as if looking at her was dirty. Apologize to Mia. When she forgives you, I'll give you the sketches. Chloe suppressed the dull ache in her heart and closed her eyes, a tear sliding down from the corner. Fine, I'll apologize to her. 3 days later, Ethan organized a get-together with their entire social circle. No one knew what it was about. Ethan, what's the occasion? Ethan raised an eyebrow. I said that hurting Mia is the same as hurting me. Someone knowingly crossed that line, so she needs to be taught a lesson. The crowd started to buzz, sensing drama. Who was it? Yeah, who had the guts to mess with Ethan's new favorite? Just then, Chloe walked in. She walked directly to Mia and bowed her head. It was me. I was vicious. I deliberately spilled the soup on you out of malice. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The room went silent for a beat. Then someone laughed out loud. So it was her. Can't she live without Ethan? Resorting to cheap tricks like that, you'd never guess it from how she acts. Right? She always seemed so proud. Who knew she was like this behind the scenes? Ethan's voice was dripping with contempt. That's enough. Just don't come near Mia again. When Chloe looked up, her face was a blank mask. Can I have my sketches now? Ethan frowned, annoyed. I said Mia has to accept your apology. Chloe turned her head mechanically to face Mia. Mia, looking terrified, burrowed deeper into Ethan's embrace. Chloe stared silently at the two of them, pressed so closely together. I'm sorry, can you forgive me? Mia clung to Ethan. Ethan, the back of my hand still hurts. Ethan glanced at Chloe's impassive face and snarled. Didn't you hear me? Keep apologizing until she accepts again. Chapter 6. Chloe's heart was already in tatters. No further harm could touch it. She repeated the words mechanically. I'm sorry, can you forgive me? Amid the jeers of the crowd and Ethan's mocking gaze, Chloe lost count of how many times she said she was sorry before Mia finally whispered. It was my fault. I wasn't holding it steady. It wasn't Chloe's fault. Only then did Ethan mercifully grant his permission. Fine, come get them tomorrow. The next day, Chloe was waiting outside Ethan's penthouse at dawn, but Ethan wouldn't open the door. When she called him, he answered in a hushed voice, as if afraid to wake someone. Mia's still sleeping. Don't wake her. If you want to wait, then wait. On an early winter morning in Chicago, the wind felt like razors against Chloe's skin, but she seemed numb to the pain, standing there stubbornly. It wasn't until the sun had fully risen that the penthouse door finally opened. Ethan was gently feeding Mia breakfast. Chloe sniffled, holding back tears. Where are my things? Ethan didn't spare her a single glance. Upstairs. Find them yourself. Chloe searched her old room for over 10 minutes but couldn't find the sketches. She went back downstairs, her voice edged with panic. Where are the sketches? Ethan slowly buttoned Mia's coat. They're right there. Chloe, what new game are you playing now? Chloe's face was deathly pale. They're not. I looked. They're not there. Seeing that she wasn't faking it, Ethan was about to go upstairs to get them himself. But Mia tugged on his sleeve. Ethan, you promised you'd take me shopping today. Ethan turned, took Mia's hand, and brushed Chloe off. I'm busy today. Come back tomorrow. Chloe's pupils constricted. She immediately moved to block his path. You said you'd give them to me today, Ethan. Do you have any idea how a plagiarism accusation will ruin me? Ethan sneered, shaking her hand off. When you were hurting Mia, did you think about how it would ruin you? Chloe, you're in no position to negotiate with me. A triumphant glint appeared in Mia's eyes as she linked her arm with Ethan's. Let's go, Ethan. Chloe was shoved out of the building by security guards Ethan had called. The 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day. Chloe stood outside the penthouse for 3 whole days. The cold seeped into every pore, her lips turned purple, and her fingers, stiffly clutching the hem of her coat, couldn't stop trembling. She had only one thought. She had to get those sketches back and prove her innocence. On the 7th day, Ethan mercifully opened the door. This time, Chloe found them. She found the shredded remains of her sketches in the trash can. Her body went rigid. The intense cold made her nauseous, and under the extreme duress, her eyes welled with tears she couldn't hold back. Ethan glanced at the scraps of paper in her hand, the coldness in his eyes deepening. Chloe, I warned you to drop the act. Who are you trying to frame now? No one else has been in this room but you. If anyone tore them up, it could only have been you. He radiated a vicious energy, like a wolf fiercely protecting Mia, who cowered behind him. Chloe's throat tightened, her lips trembled, and every breath felt like a struggle. She was suffocating. She stared at Ethan, then her gaze flickered to the trembling Mia behind him. She looked at them for a long time. Then, just before Ethan could speak again, she smiled. Chapter 7. The smile was so faint, it was almost an illusion. Chloe said nothing, yet it felt as if she had said everything. She brushed past them and walked away. As Ethan watched her go, an uneasy feeling settled in his stomach. Mia tugged on his hand, pouting. "Ethan, does she think I did it?" Ethan ignored the discomfort in his heart and ruffled her hair. "It's fine. If she dares to slander you, I'll make sure she can't survive in this city." Mia lowered her head, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. Back at her hotel, Chloe's hands trembled as she painstakingly taped the shredded pieces of paper back together. She sent a photo of the tattered, reassembled sketch to the boutique. The owner sighed on the phone. "Chloe, I know you're not that kind of person. The proof we received was flimsy, but the person behind it sent a lot of money and made their position clear. Luckily, you still have your original. You should think about who you might have offended recently." Chloe gave a bitter laugh. Ethan had really gone to great lengths to get justice for Mia, even leveraging his own company's network. Drifting in and out of sleep, Chloe developed a high fever. She burned for 2 days, unable to eat or drink. By the time Olivia rushed over, Chloe had already passed out. Terrified, Olivia called 911 and had her taken to the hospital. When Chloe woke up, the fever had broken. Her body felt light, and so did her heart. When Olivia mentioned Ethan's name, Chloe felt nothing, as if hearing the name of a stranger. It stirred no ripple in her heart. Professor Miller called. "Chloe, I've booked your flight for the 20th. We'll see each other in 4 days." For the first time in weeks, a genuine smile appeared on Chloe's face. "Okay, Professor, I'll be there on time." After hanging up, Olivia asked, "Are you really going? If you go, who knows when we'll see each other again?" Chloe turned to look out the window, her eyes full of hope. "I have to. There will be chances. Once I'm settled, you can come visit me." Chloe didn't mention coming back to visit Olivia, and Olivia didn't ask. They both knew that once she left, Chloe wasn't coming back. 2 days before her departure, Chloe received a call from Mia. She didn't want to answer. So close to leaving, she didn't want any more trouble. But Mia was relentless, calling again and again. Afraid Ethan would come after her for daring to ignore Mia's calls, Chloe finally answered. Mia's voice was filled with undisguised triumph. "Chloe, how are you? So, I noticed the other day that you left that jar you gave Ethan behind. Why don't you find some time to come pick it up?" Even though Ethan said it's just junk to him, I saw that the paper cranes inside seemed to be handmade by you. It was a heartfelt gift, after all. I thought about it and decided I should return it to you. Chloe refused flatly. "No need. If it's junk, just throw it all away." Mia wouldn't give up. "Chloe, are you still mad at me? I already told Ethan that it was my fault I dropped the soup, not yours. But he was so worried about me, he insisted on standing up for me. If you're still angry, I can have Ethan treat us to dinner, and we can apologize properly. How about it?" Chapter 8. Hearing Mia bring up Ethan again, Chloe felt a headache coming on. The Ethan of today was nothing but trouble in her eyes. She was about to leave for her new life with her professor. She wanted no more ties to him. "You set the time. I'll go get it." After hanging up, a victorious smile spread across Mia's face. The next day, Chloe arrived at the location Mia had sent her. She frowned. She hadn't expected Mia to choose the same private room where she had been forced to apologize. Mia was clearly trying to humiliate her. And she was right. When Chloe entered the room, Mia was swinging the jar of cranes. With no Ethan around, the jealousy in her eyes was sharp and clear. "Oh, Chloe, you're here. Is this that jar Ethan didn't want? Here, you can have it back." With that, Mia deliberately smashed the jar at Chloe's feet. Chloe had been mentally prepared and wasn't surprised by Mia's actions. She glanced impassively at the scattered paper cranes on the floor. Mia walked toward her, deliberately and forcefully grinding the colorful paper cranes under her heel. "What a piece of trash, so annoying it doesn't even feel good to step on." Chloe checked her watch. Her patience was wearing thin. She had an early flight to catch tomorrow. "Just say it. What did you bring me here for?" Mia smiled, a vicious light glinting in her eyes. her gaze like a venomous snake coiled around Chloe. A sudden, ominous premonition washed over Chloe. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open, and a sleazy-looking man walked in. The man rubbed his hands together, his greedy eyes fixed on Chloe. "Not bad. Very nice," Chloe clutched her purse, taking a step back. "Mia, what are you doing?" Mia nonchalantly blew at non-existent dust on her nails. "Doing? I'm finding someone for you. Only when you're thoroughly tainted will Ethan finally stop thinking about you." Chloe tried to make a break for the door, but the man grabbed a handful of her hair, his disgusting breath hot on her neck. He clamped a hand over her mouth and began tearing at her clothes. A massive wave of panic crashed over her. She had severely underestimated Mia. She was no longer a threat, so why wouldn't Mia just leave her alone? The man's hand was already on her thigh as his other hand fumbled with his own belt. "This bitch has a great body. Skin so smooth, too." In desperation, Chloe clung to her clothes, but the difference in strength was too great. Humiliating tears streamed down her face while Mia clapped and cheered from the side. Fueled by a sudden surge of adrenaline, Chloe struggled, kicking with all her might between the man's legs. He howled in pain and rolled to the side. Mia hadn't expected this, but it didn't matter. A triumphant smile played on her lips. Today, Chloe would be utterly humiliated here. Just as Mia was about to get involved herself, a frantic banging came from outside the door. "Mia, are you in there?" It was Ethan. Panic flashed in Mia's eyes, but she quickly recovered. She ripped her own clothes open and threw open the door. Crying, she threw herself into Ethan's arms. "Ethan, I was so scared I almost..." Seeing Mia's disheveled state, Ethan's face went pale with rage. He forced the words out from the back of his throat. "Chloe, are you asking for death?" Chapter 9. Ethan stared at Chloe with a murderous gaze, his voice dripping with revulsion. "Chloe, you just can't stand to see Mia happy, can you? You'd even stoop to this. I never knew your heart was so black daring to hire someone too. If that's how you want to play, then you can suffer the consequences yourself." Ethan intended to lock Chloe in the room with the man. The sleazy man was writhing on the floor, clutching his groin and spewing vile curses. Chloe's spirit was on the verge of shattering. She begged Ethan, her voice filled with despair. "No, I didn't hire him, Ethan. You can't do this." "Ethan, I really didn't. That man just tried to. Locking me in here with him is a death sentence." She lunged forward and grabbed his pant leg, her cries like the mournful shriek of a crane, each word laced with blood. "Ethan, don't leave me, I'm scared." It was as if Ethan hadn't heard a word. He slammed the door shut. The click of the lock was like a final verdict, plunging Chloe into despair. She collapsed to the floor, staring blankly at the door. The man on the ground was already getting up. "You fucking bitch, I'm gonna make you pay today." Chloe's fingers suddenly closed around a shard from the broken glass jar. She gripped it with all her strength, blood seeping from her hand. Slowly, she raised her arm, pressing the shard against her own neck. Her gaze swept past the man and settled on the security camera in the corner of the room. This whole thing could be cleared up by checking the surveillance footage, yet Ethan had believed Mia's side of the story without question. 5 years. What did it all mean? Seeing the blood on her neck, the man fell silent. He had been paid by Mia to take some compromising photos and maybe get a little handsy, but he had never intended for anyone to get killed. Seeing Chloe like this, he didn't dare take another step. Chloe's heart was a dead, empty void. 2 hours later, Olivia rushed in and let her out. Chloe's eyes were unfocused. She just quietly hugged Olivia. Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she pleaded, "Chloe, say something. Don't scare me, I'm begging you. If you're sad, just cry. Please." Chloe shook her head, her face as pale and translucent as a wilting flower devoid of life. She wasn't sad. As the sky began to lighten, Chloe looked at the faint sunlight on the horizon and smiled. As she smiled, tears fell, her voice as light as the flutter of a butterfly's wings. "Liv, I'm leaving. You once asked me if I regretted being with Ethan. I told you I'd never regret it, but last night I truly did. I really, really did. I'm leaving now. You take care of yourself." Olivia, choked with sobs, could only nod as she took her to the airport. As the plane sliced through the sky, Chloe sat in her seat, tears streaming down her face, but with a smile of anticipation. At the same time, Ethan left his penthouse and drove to the club from the night before. For some reason, a strange panic had been gnawing at him since morning. He had taught Chloe a lesson last night. She should have learned her place by now. But he found the door to the private room already open. He angrily stopped a staff member. "Didn't I tell you not to open this door? Who opened it?" Chapter 10. The staff member shot back, "You have the nerve to say that. It's a good thing a young woman barged in here and opened the door, or the girl inside would have been in serious trouble." When we went in to clean, the floor was covered in blood. The girl was clutching a piece of glass and wouldn't let go. And I have to say, sir, what kind of grudge do you have against a young woman like that? If something had happened here, we'd be out of business. Ethan's face was like ice, but he kept reassuring himself. Chloe was the one who tried to set me up. I was just teaching her a lesson, but the thought of the blood-covered floor sent a strange shiver through him. Soon, Mia found him. A dark glint flashed in her eyes. She had to find a way to truly secure Ethan's heart. "Ethan, you came here without telling me. Are you worried about Chloe? Let it go, she probably didn't mean it. And besides, nothing really." The implication was clear. Ethan's anger flared. "She did this to you, and you're still defending her. If I hadn't shown up when I did, she would have committed a felony." Suddenly, remembering the staff's mention of blood, Ethan stopped them as they were leaving. "What did you say about a piece of glass? She was bleeding?" Mia panicked. She couldn't let Ethan find out the truth. She rushed over, clutching her forehead. "Ethan, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm scared." Yesterday, seeing her distress, Ethan's attention shifted back to Mia. "Let's go to the hospital." But before they could even get an appointment, Mia's phone rang. It was the police. "Miss Sue, this is regarding the incident last night where you allegedly hired a man to assault Miss Fu. We need you to come down to the station." Startled, Mia hung up immediately. She tried to make an excuse to get rid of Ethan, but he insisted on going with her to the police station. "This is definitely something Chloe cooked up. Looks like last night's lesson wasn't enough. This time she can taste her own medicine. Mia, you don't have to cover for her. Just tell the police exactly what happened." At the precinct, Mia looked helpless, clinging to Ethan, her heart pounding. The moment he walked in, Ethan scanned the room for Chloe, but she wasn't there. Instead, her best friend, Olivia, was sitting there, next to a sharp-looking lawyer who was all business. This only confirmed Ethan's belief. Chloe had called the police. Last night, he'd shown her immense mercy by just locking her in the room instead of reporting her. He couldn't believe she was shameless enough to turn around and frame Mia. Ethan's brow furrowed. "Olivia, where's Chloe? Sending you to be her mouthpiece while she hides. Do you two have any idea what the consequences are for filing a false report?" Olivia, who despised Ethan, slammed her hand on the table. "Shut up, what right do you have to even say her name? Sorry to disappoint you, but the one facing consequences today is your new girlfriend." Just then, a police officer brought someone out from the back. It was the man from the club. Ethan's temple throbbed. He had a terrible feeling. The man's face lit up when he saw Mia. "Hey, hurry up and clear this up with them. You just told me to rough the girl up a bit. You never said anything about doing anything illegal, right?" Chapter 11. Mia's mind went blank. She squeezed out a line of tears, her face a mask of grievance. She never thought this would escalate to a police matter. I don't even know you. What proof do you have that I hired you?" Ethan protectively shielded Mia, backing her up. "Officer, is this how you conduct an investigation? Based on one person's word?" Mia said she doesn't know this man. He's the one who tried to assault her last night. He's in cahoots with Chloe. She's his real employer. If you continue with this sloppy investigation, I'll have no choice but to report you to your superiors." With that, Ethan, like a guardian angel, tucked Mia under his arm and prepared to leave. He planned to use his connections to get her out of this, but the sleazy man wasn't having it. He thought Mia was trying to burn her bridges. When she'd hired him, she'd made him screenshot proof that he'd deleted their transaction history, but he had secretly backed it up. "Hey, you're not getting away with this. I've got the payment records right here, officer. Look, she's the one who transferred me the money." "Officer, she is my employer. She told me to do everything. It has nothing to do with me. Last night, I just touched that woman a bit. Nothing actually happened besides. She was holding a piece of glass to her own throat. How could I dare to touch her?" The man pulled out his phone and handed it to the officer. Mia's face went white. She instinctively glanced at Ethan. She saw that he had frozen in place. His dark, menacing gaze swept past her and landed on the man. The officer looked at the phone, and his expression turned serious. Miss Sue, please cooperate with our investigation." In a flash, Ethan lost all control. His eyes bloodshot, he lunged forward and wrapped his hands around the man's throat. "What did you just say? Say it to me again. Where did you touch her?" Mia was frantic. "This is a setup. Chloe set me up. You were paid off by Chloe to frame me, weren't you?" The man's face turned purple as he was being choked, unable to speak. Officers were trying to pull Ethan off, but he was in a dead rage and they couldn't break his grip. Veins bulged on Ethan's forehead. He looked like he wanted to kill the man. "Repeat what you just said, say it." Olivia stood up and clapped her hands slowly. "Ethan, are you done with your show? Weren't you the one who locked Chloe in that room with this animal? What's with the hero act now? Why don't you go back to protecting your precious Mia?" The name, Chloe, seemed to jolt Ethan back to his senses. He released his grip on the man. He turned and viciously slapped Mia across the face, grabbing her by the collar. "Mia," he hissed, "we had an agreement. You were just a distraction, a toy. Who gave you the right to touch Chloe? Did all the attention I gave you make you forget your place?" Mia was stunned by the slap. It was a brutal wake-up call. Tears streamed down her face, her usual fragile demeanor on full display as she stared at him in disbelief. Could all his affection for her these past weeks have been fake? She refused to believe it. "You hit me for that, old hag. Did you forget what you told me in bed? You said you were sick of Chloe, that you loved how fresh and young I was." Ethan's fist clenched. He swung, punching her square in the face. Veins pulsed on his forehead. Chapter 12. Mia screamed and fell to the floor, clutching her face, tears streaming down. "It wasn't me. I didn't do it. It wasn't my order," she shrieked, still trying to deny it. Ethan looked away in disgust. Since Mia had dared to go behind his back and hurt Chloe, he would make her pay a painful price. He immediately called the club and had them send over the surveillance footage from the private room. Mia lost all strength and crumpled to the floor. She had one thought: she was finished. Ethan sent the video to the police, who played it on the spot as evidence. When Ethan saw Mia smash the jar of cranes at Chloe's feet, his eyes turned red. When he saw Chloe's violent struggle against the man, it felt like his throat was sealed shut, and he couldn't breathe. When the footage reached the point where he slammed the door, locking Chloe inside, he couldn't watch anymore. Olivia spat at him. "Ethan, you're a real piece of shit." A tsunami of despair crashed over Ethan. A terrifying smile stretched across his face, his eyes filled with a dark, manic fury. He grabbed Mia by the hair, pulling so hard it felt like he would rip her scalp off. "Who told you to touch the jar of cranes? When did I ever say it was junk?" Aware of the police, he leaned down and whispered in her ear, his voice a low threat only she could hear. "Since you dared to use this trick to hurt Chloe, don't worry. When you get out, I'll have some people give you a very special welcome." Mia knelt on the floor, her tear-stained face filled with terror. She grabbed his pant leg. "Ethan, please let me go. I know I was wrong, I just loved you too much." Suppressing his rage, Ethan kicked her away. His mind was flooded with the image of Chloe from last night. Her disheveled clothes, her desperate pleas for him to let her go, and finally, the hopeless look in her eyes. The more he thought about it, the more horrified he became. His eyes were shot with red as he turned to Olivia, grasping at a last straw. "Where's Chloe?" Olivia sneered and ignored him, turning to the police. "Officer, since the truth is out, this is Miss Fu's legal counsel. He has full authority to represent her. I'll leave the rest to you." A sudden panic seized Ethan, but he quickly composed himself. "Legal counsel? Why isn't she here herself? Was she badly hurt last night? Is she at the hospital? I'll go see her." Olivia took a step back, her disgust for Ethan even greater than her hatred for Mia. This pair of scum deserved each other. "You don't need to worry about that. She doesn't want to see you." With that, Olivia said goodbye to the lawyer and walked out of the station. But Ethan, as if unable to comprehend her words, followed her like a ghost, all the way to her apartment building. He guessed Chloe might be staying with Olivia. He had only one thought: find Chloe, tell her he didn't mean it, that he never wanted to throw away the jar of cranes. She had spent months folding them for him, writing messages on every wing. How could he possibly throw it away? He tried to follow Olivia into the building. Olivia, at her limit, spun around. "Even if you follow me, you won't see her. You will never see her again for the rest of your life." Ethan's heart stopped. His jaw tightened and his eyelid twitched violently. A terrible premonition, like a sharp needle, pierced his heart. "What do you mean by that?" Chapter 13. Looking at Ethan's devastated state, Olivia felt nothing but disgust. She felt sorry for Chloe. It means exactly what it sounds like. She's gone. Stop bothering her. Ethan stood in the cold wind, looking like a lost dog, utterly pathetic. He didn't know how he got home. When he came to his senses, it was late at night. He instinctively reached for his phone to call his assistant to track Chloe's whereabouts, only to remember his current assistant was in jail. For a moment, he realized he had no one else he could rely on. He rushed back to the police station and used his connections to see Mia. Mia, who had just learned she would be locked up for 6 months, was despondent. But seeing Ethan return, a flicker of hope ignited. She thought he still had feelings for her. Instead, Ethan just grabbed her by the throat, his hands barely suppressing a volcanic rage. "Tell me, where did Chloe go?" The hope in Mia's eyes died. She stopped struggling. "You came to see me just for that old hag." Ethan threw her to the ground in disgust, looking at her as if she were trash. "You should be thankful your little plan didn't succeed, Mia. Otherwise, I doubt you'd even be breathing right now." Mia sobbed on the floor, her breakdown turning from tears to laughter. A malicious smile twisted her face. "Ethan, are you any better than me? You were the one who locked her in that room, not me. You were the one who forced her to apologize to me over and over. You did all of that, so what right do you have to blame me? If you really loved her, why did you end up in my bed? It's pathetic now that she doesn't want you. You're putting on this big show of devotion. Who are you even trying to impress? Have you forgotten? That day, while she was in the kitchen making your hangover soup, you were kissing me right in front of her. So tell me, who's the real monster here?" Mia's words were like razor blades, flaying Ethan's heart. He bit his lip so hard he tasted blood, staggering back as if struck. His entire body felt like it had been plunged into an icy abyss. How could this be? How could Chloe not want him anymore? No matter how bad their fights were, Chloe always came back. He had only used Mia to make Chloe more compliant, to test her obedience. The one he loved had always been Chloe. A chaotic mix of emotions surged through him, bringing with it a colossal sense of panic. "No, I can't live without Chloe," he thought of someone. Chloe's lawyer. He had to know where she went. Ethan found the lawyer, who was initially unwilling to disclose his client's information. Left with no other choice, Ethan offered to send several major clients to the lawyer's firm. The lawyer relented. "Miss Fu left the country a while ago. It's useless for you to chase after her now. If you loved her so much, why did you hurt her in the first place?" A wave of elation washed over Ethan, drowning out everything else. As long as he could find her, he was sure he could bring her back. Meanwhile, in Paris, Chloe was met at the airport by a car sent by Professor Miller. The driver was a familiar face, her senior from university, Leo. The air in Paris was even colder than in Chicago, the city blanketed in a layer of fresh snow. At first, Chloe struggled to adapt. But as she grew more comfortable with her work and with Leo's thoughtful care, she began to thrive. Like a tree absorbing nutrients, she put down roots and began to grow, her entire being radiating a new vitality. Chapter 14. Chloe had just wrapped up the design for a fashion show when Leo appeared with a congratulatory bouquet. "Congratulations, Chloe." Chloe's eyes curved into a smile. "I have you and the professor to thank. If you hadn't championed me and fought for this opportunity, I never would have been given the chance to lead a show this soon." Leo looked at her, his warm eyes filled with admiration and certainty. "It's because you're exceptional. Don't sell yourself short. The success of this show is the best proof of your talent." He said it with such earnest sincerity that Chloe's ears turned pink. It had been a long time since she had received such a direct compliment. In all her years with Ethan, he had rarely affirmed her abilities. He would only praise her when she did something for him, a hollow validation of her actions, not her worth. The memory of the events from a month ago sent a shiver down her spine. She looked up slowly at Leo, who had deliberately slowed his pace to match hers. In that moment, she made a decision. "Leo, you mentioned once that you have a friend who's a therapist specializing in trauma, right? I want to try it." Chloe wanted to erase the bad memories. After Ethan had locked her in that room, she had developed a severe stress response. It hadn't improved since arriving in Paris. She was terrified of being alone in enclosed spaces and being alone with men. At its worst, she would suffer from vomiting and high fevers. Every time she closed her eyes, the despair and the sleazy man's greedy gaze would come rushing back. Seeing her about to spiral, Leo gently touched her shoulder, then quickly resumed a respectful distance. His voice was firm and steady. "I'll book an appointment for you. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay." Through the haze of her panic, Chloe heard his familiar voice. The tension in her nerves eased, and she gave him a grateful look. She hadn't hidden what happened from him or Professor Miller. She had expected her mentor to scold her for giving up her future for such a man. Instead, he had sighed and looked after her with great care. Leo had been by her side constantly, even moving into the apartment next to hers, afraid she might harm herself. Leo quickly arranged for his friend to see Chloe. Before the session, he handed her a cup of hot tea. Seeing the anxiety in her eyes, he offered a gentle, reassuring smile. "Don't be afraid, he's a professional, he won't hurt you." As time passed, Chloe gradually calmed. The memories of Ethan began to blur. When she opened her eyes again, there was a profound peace in her gaze. When the name Ethan Kane now came to mind, all she knew was that he was an ex-boyfriend she had dated for 5 years. Nothing more. After the therapy, Chloe slowly began to open up. She no longer felt anxious when she was alone with Leo. Like warm water slowly coming to a boil, he had gradually become an indispensable part of her life. By the time she noticed, Leo was everywhere. Whenever Professor Miller saw them together, his wrinkled face would break into a teasing grin. Chloe would flush, trying to explain. "Professor, we're not..." The old man would feign deafness, looking elsewhere. "Ah, youth so wonderful. Always sticking together." Chloe looked to Leo for help, but to her surprise, the usually composed man had a faint blush on his cheeks. "Professor, the revolution is not yet won. I'm still working on it." Chloe blinked, her heart thumping in her chest, rendered speechless. After work, Leo was waiting for her by the door as usual to walk home together. But they had worked late, and as they walked, a sudden outbreak of violence erupted on the street. Chapter 15. Gunshots rang out. Chloe froze in terror. Leo threw himself over her, shielding her with his body. As he tried to pull her back into the studio, a stray bullet grazed his shoulder. Blood soaked through his sweater. Police sirens wailed as officers quickly arrived to control the chaos. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. Despite the intense pain, he kept Chloe covered, his body a human shield. Chloe smelled the metallic tang of blood and clutched his shirt. "Leo, we need to go to the hospital," he pressed her head down. "Just a little longer. We'll go when it's safer." Even though the police were on the scene, he feared desperate people might do something reckless. He had to ensure Chloe's safety. Chloe understood. Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm not scared." "I'll go with you." Looking into her tear-filled eyes, Leo's heart softened. He took her hand, a bold move he made on pure instinct. "Chloe, But a raw, desperate shout from across the street cut off his confession. Chloe, and Leo looked up. Leo's pupils constricted, his face darkening. A tall, well-built man was walking toward them, his cold, sharp features softening as he got closer. "Chloe, I finally found you." Confusion filled Chloe's eyes. "Do I know you?" Ethan's gaze fell on their intertwined hands and his face hardened. "Chloe, I was wrong. Mia was just an act. It's always been you. Please stop this, okay?" Chloe took 2 steps back, and Leo stepped forward, their movements perfectly synchronized. A sharp pain shot through Ethan's heart, and his voice took on an angry edge. "Chloe, who is he?" Chloe gave Ethan a strange look, searching her memory for any trace of him. The search ended on 2 words. "Ex-boyfriend. Ethan Kane, what are you doing here? We broke up. We have no relationship." Leo stood firmly in front of Chloe, his voice a low warning. "Chloe has forgotten you. Please stay away from her." Ethan, like a cornered lion, looked ready to tear them apart. "Chloe, who is he? What right do you have to speak for my girlfriend?" Chloe pulled Leo back, her brow furrowed. "I am not your girlfriend. We broke up a long time ago. My boyfriend now is my colleague, Leo. And right now, my boyfriend is injured. So if you'll excuse us, please stop bothering us." Leo started to say something, but Chloe firmly pushed him into the car and drove toward the hospital, leaving Ethan standing alone on the sidewalk, stunned into silence. In the passenger seat, Leo's free hand clenched unconsciously. He swallowed, testing the waters. He knew it was just an excuse to get rid of Ethan, but he couldn't suppress the joy blooming in his chest. "Chloe, what you just said?" Chloe smiled. "You were about to confess, weren't you? I accept." Chapter 16. Mindful that Chloe was driving, Leo restrained himself, but he desperately wanted to hug her. He forced himself to say, "I won't make any promises. I'll just prove it to you with my actions." On the sidewalk, Ethan's eyes turned red. As he hastily looked down, a tear fell to the pavement. He could have endured anything from the other man, but hearing Chloe herself say she had a new boyfriend, and the way she looked at him, like he was a complete stranger. Before coming, he had imagined this moment. Maybe Chloe would hate him, hit him, scream at him, or maybe she'd be calmly distant. Whatever it was, he had a plan to win her back. He had never, ever imagined she would have a new boyfriend and treat him like a passerby. Ethan stood there, staring in the direction she had gone, his eyes empty, as if all the color had drained from his world. Chloe thought Ethan would give up and go home, but she had underestimated him. He shamelessly rented an apartment in her building, one floor below hers. He waited for her downstairs every day, begging for her forgiveness. The Parisian winter was at its peak, the snow piling up thicker each day. Hoping to soften her heart, Ethan stood in the snow all night, his body frozen stiff. Chloe didn't even glance his way. He stumbled and fell into a snowbank. A security guard, afraid he'd freeze to death, came to help him up. But Ethan pushed him away, his voice hoarse as he yelled up at Chloe's window. "Chloe, I was wrong, please forgive me." His shouting disturbed the neighbors, who collectively called the police on him. After that, Ethan became quieter, lurking outside her apartment to catch a glimpse of her as she came and went. But Leo never gave him the chance. Every time Chloe opened her door, the door to the apartment next to hers would open at the exact same time, and Leo would be there. No matter what time Chloe left for work, Leo was there with her, like a perfectly synchronized clock. Ethan came down with a high fever. This time, there was no one to bring him water or medicine. He lay in the silent apartment, weeping alone, his red-rimmed eyes staring at nothing. "Chloe, I regret everything." The next time Chloe saw Ethan, more than half of his once thick, dark hair had turned gray. He was gaunt and haggard, a shadow of his former self. His nose tingled and tears fell. "Chloe, can't we just talk?" Afraid he might collapse, Chloe stopped. Leo met her gaze and moved a short distance away, keeping her in his line of sight. Ethan took a deep breath, his voice filled with emotion. "Chloe, do you remember? The year my company took off, you said you wanted to see the snow up north. I promised you." Chloe cut him off. "Did I say that? I don't remember." "I'm sorry, Ethan, and I know this sounds cruel, but I really don't have much memory of you. I recently underwent therapy to forget some unhappy memories. It seems you were part of that past. So whatever you're saying, it means nothing to me. You're not a child. A breakup is a breakup. Stop harassing me. Let's both have some dignity." Ethan swayed on his feet. He could never have imagined that Chloe would choose to erase all her memories of him. He choked back a sob. "Was being with me that painful for you?" Chapter 17. Chloe's gaze drifted to Leo in the distance, and a small smile touched her lips. "If those memories were precious and brought me joy, why would I have chosen to erase them?" Ethan's fingers trembled. He staggered back and fell into the snow. How could this be?" Tears blurred his vision. He didn't know when Chloe left. All he knew was that the sky felt like it had collapsed, leaving him in absolute despair. A month later, the studio landed a huge contract. The client specifically requested Chloe as the lead designer. On the day of the initial meeting, Chloe discovered the investor was Ethan. He stared at her with a look of deep affection, a stark contrast to the broken man from a month ago. "I know what you're going to say. You don't love me now only because you've forgot. Once you remember, Chloe, you'll love me again. I'll stay by your side and help you remember." Chloe thought he was insane. She tried to explain again that she had forgotten. Because she no longer loved him, he had the cause and effect completely backward. But Ethan remained stubbornly convinced. Leo stroked her hair, patiently reasoning with her. "Give it time. He'll eventually realize you don't love him, but that's not the priority right now. Chloe, this is a huge opportunity. You've made a name for yourself in Paris over the last few months, but do you want to stop here? Isn't it your dream to have your designs worn by world-famous models on international stages? If this project is a success, you can establish a strong foothold back in the US market." As Leo laid out the pros and cons, Chloe's eyes welled up. "Leo, thank you." From the very beginning, he had always considered her perspective, never holding her messy past with Ethan against her. Leo, guessing her thoughts, playfully touched his own face. "I have a lot of confidence in this face. My wife is right here. She's not going anywhere. Chloe laughed, a sweet sound, and playfully pinched his side. Don't be so shameless. I'm just your girlfriend, not your wife yet. It's only a matter of time. Standing outside the door, Ethan felt a surge of blood rush to his head. He could only manage a bitter, defeated smile. Chloe threw herself into the project. Even when Ethan tried to strike up a conversation, he couldn't find an opening. When Chloe was working, she was a different person. Confident, independent, a radiant force. Even when working late into the night, her hair disheveled, she seemed to glow. Only then did Ethan truly understand what he had lost. Regret was a constant, gnawing torment. The promotional campaign for the event was a massive success, with celebrities from both home and abroad making inquiries about the collection. But on the eve of the launch, disaster struck. The moment Chloe stepped into the studio, she noticed her colleagues looking at her strangely. Some would meet her eye and immediately look away. Professor Miller approached her, his face full of concern. Don't worry, it's nothing serious, just some rumors from God knows where. Someone is jealous and spreading lies. We all know your talent. Don't you worry. Leo had come to work with Chloe and hadn't heard anything. What rumors? Professor, the launch is tomorrow. We can't have any slip-ups. Professor Miller had no choice but to tell them. The night before, a story about Chloe's past plagiarism had been posted on a major U.S. gossip site. In their industry, plagiarism was the ultimate disgrace. The online backlash was severe. Chapter 18. Chloe thought for a moment and knew exactly what had happened. Leo looked at her, worried. Are you okay? Do you need me to handle it? Chloe shook her head. This actually just gave our event more publicity. Don't worry, I've got this. Ethan rushed in, looking frantic. He had clearly put two and two together. Chloe, it wasn't me. Chloe didn't spare him a single glance, turning back to her work. A dark look crossed Ethan's face. A thought seemed to strike him, and he stormed out of the room. On the day of the fashion show, a horde of reporters shoved microphones in Chloe's face. Miss Fu, it's been reported that one of your previous designs was plagiarized. Whose work did you copy this time? Miss Fu, how can you continue to work in this industry with a clear conscience after committing plagiarism? To everyone's surprise, Chloe stood there perfectly composed, without a trace of panic. Since you're accusing me of plagiarism, where is your proof? One reporter, unwilling to back down, pressed forward. The evidence is all over the internet, don't you know? The crowd looked at her with a mixture of mockery and contempt. But Chloe was unfazed. She stood up and clapped her hands. The large screen behind her lit up, and everyone gasped. The screen displayed a montage of Chloe's design sketches, starting from her university days. Each design was accompanied by photos of the original drafts, along with her notes on inspiration and concepts. The crowd was stunned into silence. Someone with this body of work, this level of talent, how could she possibly be a plagiarist? No, let me go, a shrill scream cut through the room. Ethan dragged a disheveled woman into the venue. She was struggling wildly, shouting. Let go of me, of course. She's a plagiarist. She doesn't have the original sketch. How can she prove she's not? Just because she has other designs doesn't mean she didn't plagiarize that one. The crazed woman was Mia. Seeing her still trying to slander Chloe, Ethan raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face, then kicked her in the stomach. You bitch, you're still lying and slandering Chloe. Weren't you the one who tore up her original sketch? A fire burned in Ethan's chest, a soul-crushing pain. It was because of this woman that Chloe had stood outside in the cold for days, damaging her health. While he had thought it was all an act, Chloe smiled faintly. From behind her, Leo handed her a tattered piece of paper, painstakingly taped back together. The original sketch is right here. Mia's eyes filled with dark hatred. She couldn't accept it. How could Chloe, whom she had driven away, still be so successful? Why was it that she had to suffer for 6 months in jail, while Chloe was living a happy, prosperous life? That's a fake. Ethan slapped her again. You psycho, still daring to slander her. You were the one who destroyed it. I have the surveillance video. Ethan had security drag the limp, defeated Mia away, then turned to Chloe, full of remorse. I'm sorry, Chloe. I didn't know she was the one who tore up your sketch, but Chloe just turned and walked away. Ethan's hand froze in midair. A week later, the event concluded. Chloe had, against all odds, become a sensation in the U.S. fashion scene, her value skyrocketing. She decided to buy a large cake to share with her colleagues at the studio. But just as she stepped out of the bakery, a cloth was pressed over her face from behind, and she lost consciousness. Chapter 19. When she came to, Chloe was tied up in the passenger seat of a car, unable to move. Mia was sitting next to her, a manic look in her eyes, muttering to herself. "Bitch, this is all your fault. You bitch." Chloe subtly glanced outside, realizing they had already left the city and were heading into the countryside. Mia drove for another half-hour before stopping. Chloe's head was spinning. The dose of chloroform Mia had used was too strong, and she was finding it hard to breathe. Mia dragged Chloe out of the car. Chloe secretly dug her nails into her thigh, trying to stay clear-headed. It had been about an hour since she was taken. When she'd left the bakery, Leo had been waiting in his car just around the corner. He would have noticed she was missing within minutes. If she could just hold on, he and the police would be able to track them using traffic cameras. Having formed a plan, Chloe parted her lips. "What's the point of kidnapping me? The one who wronged you was Ethan, not me." A crazed hatred filled Mia's eyes. "Not you. It's because of you. If you hadn't had your friend call the police, Ethan would never have found out the truth. He wouldn't have abandoned me. He wouldn't have followed you to another country. It's all because of you. Why couldn't you just disappear? Why did you have to call the police?" A strange, twisted smile appeared on Mia's face. "After you're dead, Ethan will come back to me." Chloe didn't understand her logic. She secretly scraped her feet on the ground, trying to inch away from Mia. Mia gritted her teeth, her gaze sweeping over Chloe's face like poison. "I hear you have a new boyfriend. Chloe, you really have all the luck, don't you?" She pulled a dagger from her pocket, slowly dragging the tip across Chloe's cheek. A thin red line of blood appeared. Mia hadn't used much force, she just wanted to scare Chloe. She wanted to see her panic, to see her beg for mercy. But Chloe just looked at her coldly. "This is all your own doing. You have no one to blame but yourself. You're just like Ethan. When something goes wrong, you just look for someone else to blame." Mia's eyes were locked on Chloe's face, her gaze darting around neurotically. What she hated most was this cold, detached expression, as if someone like her wasn't even worth Chloe's time or effort. Mia lost her mind. She gripped the dagger tightly, her eyes filled with venom. "Let's see if you can still be so tough in a minute, Chloe." She plunged the dagger toward Chloe's chest. As the blade entered flesh, Chloe's eyes widened. But the person who had been stabbed was not her. It was Ethan who had thrown himself in front of her. His trembling voice reached her. "Chloe, are you okay?" Mia screamed and dropped the dagger, her eyes wide with terror. Ethan, how could it be you?" Police officers swarmed from behind, restraining Mia. Leo, terrified, rushed forward and pulled Chloe into his arms, his fingers spasming. When he had arrived and seen Mia raise the dagger, his blood had run cold. He had charged forward, but halfway there, Ethan had sprinted past him, knocking him to the ground. Leo's heart had nearly stopped, but thank God Chloe was safe. Chloe patted Leo's back comfortingly. "I'm okay." On the ground, Ethan clutched his chest, blood trickling from his mouth. Chloe looked down, her expression complicated. The shock of the moment had brought back all her memories of Ethan, but it didn't matter anymore. Ethan's eyes reddened. "You still don't remember?" Chloe shook her head, then sighed, her voice soft. "I remember now, but so what? Thank you for saving me, Ethan, but you were the one who brought this disaster into my life. I don't owe you anything." Ethan closed his eyes, a single blood-tinged tear trailing from the corner. "I know, I'm sorry." An image of a young Chloe appeared in his mind. He had fallen in love with her at first sight, swearing to the heavens he would protect and cherish her for a lifetime. When did it all change? Was it when his career took off and he couldn't resist the temptations? When Chloe's constant questions started to grate on his nerves? Mia had just been a tool, a test of Chloe's obedience. That night at the gala, Mia's stocking had torn, and she'd bought a new pair, leaving the old one in his car. Chloe had seen it and started a huge fight. He had felt his masculinity challenged, so he made Mia his assistant and allowed her to cross boundaries, all to force Chloe to submit. He was just playing around on the side. He never intended to leave Chloe. Chapter 20. He was wrong, so terribly wrong. In the end, Chloe still couldn't forgive him. Ethan's breathing grew faint, his gaze losing focus. Chloe looked away. She had never wanted him to die, but this was fate. 3 months later, Leo watched as Chloe pinched her nose and downed a bowl of chicken soup. A knock came at the door. A courier handed her a red gift box. After signing for it, Chloe noticed the meaningful look in Leo's eyes. Her heart began to pound as she opened the box. Inside was a red wedding dress, the very one Leo had finished last week. "What is this doing here?" "You said it was a client's custom order." Leo wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You and I are together every day. I couldn't hide it from you, so I had to make up an excuse." Not only had Leo designed the dress, but he had also hand-sewn and tailored it himself. Chloe had even been a little jealous at the time. Leo dropped to one knee, pulling a ring from out of nowhere. "Chloe Fu, will you marry me?" "I will." On the day of her wedding to Leo, Chloe received a phone call and a package. It turned out that before he died, Ethan had signed over his entire estate to her. Chloe refused it. The damage was done. No amount of money could fix it. "Donate the money to a children's education fund," she instructed the lawyer. Chloe opened the package. Inside was the jar of paper cranes that Mia had smashed. Ethan had glued it back together, but some of the cranes inside were covered in dust. Chloe's fingers lightly brushed against the fractured glass, and then she dropped the jar into the trash can. What's past is past. What's done is done. Let it all remain in yesterday. Tomorrow, she was starting a new chapter of her life.